Hello, welcome back. Now that we have finished Genesis, we are moving into Exodus, and today we're going to learn about baby Moses. Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, was afraid. He was rich and powerful and scared. What could he be scared of? Well, strangely enough, Pharaoh was scared of God's people, the Hebrews. He thought there were too many of them, and he was afraid that they would try to become more powerful than he was. To make sure the Hebrews had no power, Pharaoh made them his slaves and ordered them to work very hard. Even worse, he demanded that all of the Hebrew baby boys should be drowned in the Nile River. Because of this, God's people were terribly afraid too. Everyone in Egypt was afraid. During this fearful time, a baby boy was born to a Hebrew mother. She loved her baby boy, and of course, she wanted him to live. The baby's mother kept him safe by making a floating basket for him. She put her baby in the basket and then hid it in the water and plants at the edge of the Nile River. The baby's big sister, Miriam, hid near the shore and watched over the basket. What happened next was really amazing. Pharaoh's daughter came down to the river to take a bath. She saw the basket among the water and plants and asked her servant to go and get it. When she opened the basket, she was surprised to see a baby boy crying. This must be one of the Hebrews' children, said Pharaoh's daughter. He's awfully cute. Wouldn't it be fun to keep him? Aha, thought Miriam. I can help her. Miriam bravely stepped out of her hiding place. I could probably find someone to help take care of the baby for you until he's a little older, she said. That would be perfect, the Pharaoh's daughter said. Miriam was excited to tell her mother the news. The baby's mother took good care of him. When he was old enough, he went to live with Pharaoh's daughter Miriam, and her mother prayed he would be safe with her. I think I will name him Moses, said Pharaoh's daughter, because I took him out of the water. Moses lived in Pharaoh's palace until he grew up to be a man. During that time, life became worse and worse for the Hebrews. Eventually, however, Moses helped free God's people so they could leave Egypt. Now there was something besides fear for God's people. There was hope. Now today, why don't we do a little experiment? What kinds of things float in water? What could you build that might float in water, similar to how the basket did? Why don't you try something like that this week, and we will see each other next week. Have a great week.
We are so glad to be here with you today to make a special craft about the Bible story you just heard. What story did we just hear?
The story of baby Moses.
That's right, the story of baby Moses. And baby Moses' story was a special story because baby Moses was put into a
basket.
And his mother placed him in the
Nile River.
And what part of the river? Like
Next
in the
to
middle,
the grass.
next to the side, right, in the grass. So today we thought what we would do is we would make a special craft to show that we know about baby Moses being put into the basket and then being put into the plants right next to the edge of the Nile River. And then somebody special came and found him.
The Pharaoh's daughter.
The Pharaoh's daughter came and found him. So we want to go ahead and make our baby Moses craft. Now, in order to make our craft today, we need some special materials. We need a paper plate. Any size will do. You also need some scissors. We also need some glue, some crayons, and some colored paper. Now we decided to use green and kind of like a brown color paper. Whatever color you have at home is great. Even if you don't have colored paper, that's okay too, because you can always color it with crayons to make it whatever color you would like. So the first thing you do is you take your paper plate and you color it. And we colored ours brown. So here's our paper plate. We colored it brown, and we also put some little lines on it to make it look kind of like a basket. After you color your paper plate, the next step you do is you cut it in half. Ready? Here we go. Whoop, there it is, cut in half. As soon as you have it cut in half, then what you're gonna do is you're gonna make it into a basket. And the way we do that is you take one piece and it goes like this, kind of like a smile with a flat part up top. And then you take the second piece and you turn it the opposite direction. Like that, here we go. And that makes our basket. Now the next step you do is you glue it together. So you can add a little glue here and to attach it, or if you would like to do what we do, just take a little piece of tape and stick it here at the back so we have room for our basket to stay together. As soon as we have our basket together, the next step you need to do is take your colored paper and you're going to draw a circle on it, which we already have. So there's our circle. You decorate it with a baby's face and then go ahead and cut it out. Hold on. Oh, here he is. Here's our baby. Okay, as soon as we have our baby face, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to attach it to the basket. Now you can decide where you want your baby to be in your
We're
basket.
putting our baby Moses right here.
Perfect. And here, let's add a little glue or a little tape there to add him in. So let's show them what he looks like. Here, you want to show baby Moses in the basket?
Uh-oh.
He's okay. Go ahead. Oh, let's see. Oh, he came unattached. Let's fix him again. Okay, there we go. You want to go ahead and show baby Moses? There he is. Baby Moses is in the basket. If you want to add more of his body, you can. If you just want to see his head, like us, then that's the way he would
Like
look.
he's in a blanket, maybe.
That's right. He's kind of in the blanket. I bet he was wrapped in a blanket and then inside the basket. As soon as we have this part done, we need to go and show what the grass looks like. So here we have our grass. We cut out just some strips from green paper. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to take that and we're going to attach it to the back of our basket. So we're going to go right here and we're going to lay it across the back. Let's see. Hold on, let me get it behind his head. Okay. And you can glue it or tape it, whatever works best for you. And hopefully now you can see there's baby Moses inside the basket in the plants. Now we also had a finished one here too that looks just a little different. So you can see your baby can go either way and you can make it work as best as you like. Now, this craft was pretty simple. What were the things we used today to make it?
A paper plate.
A paper plate. You don't have to take one out, it's okay. Paper plate, we have crayons, paper, glue, and scissors. That's really all you need to do to make your baby Moses. And if you want to, you can take a marker and you can write the Bible verse from the story on the bottom to help you remember about baby Moses and about how he was found by the Pharaoh's daughter. Thank you for joining us today to make this special craft. We hope that you enjoy making this craft just as much as we did. Did you have fun making this today?
Yeah.
Good. And I think we'll find a special spot for it at our house here so we can remember the story. Thank you for letting us join you. Bye.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Shoemaker, and I'm really happy to be with you guys today. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the Bible story, the Bible verse you heard, which was about Moses, and it was from the book of Exodus in the Bible, chapter 2, verses 1 through 10. But first, we need to kind of recap what's happening. So last Sunday, or last time you guys watched my video, we were talking about Joseph. And remember, God had a plan and took care of Joseph. Joseph had 11 brothers. And if you remember, his brothers didn't like him very much. He was his father's favorite, and his brothers sold him. Do you remember that? And Joseph went down to Egypt and was a servant in an Egyptian's house, and then he was in prison. And all of a sudden, Pharaoh, which was the king of Egypt, learned about Joseph and the special gift God gave Joseph to interpret dreams. And if you remember, all of a sudden Joseph became governor of Egypt and helped Pharaoh and the Egyptian people and people from other countries to survive that terrible famine when there was nothing to eat. And some of those people that came from other countries were his 11 brothers. And even his father came. So Joseph was reunited with his father and his brothers, and he forgave them. And we're going to jump to where we are now. So, if you remember, Joseph's father was named Jacob. And God promised Jacob, if he went to Egypt, that he would become the father of a great nation. Well, a lot of time had passed. Remember, we knew that Jacob passed away. We knew that Joseph and his brothers settled and lived in Egypt. And enough time has gone by that for this story that Joseph and his brothers have also passed away, but they had children, and their children had children. And now the descendants, so the children of Jacob and Joseph and the brothers are a mighty nation, just like God promised, and they're the Israelites. Now, they still live in Egypt, but they're not Egyptians. One thing that was different is the Egyptians worshipped many gods, but the Israelites only worshipped one God, our God. So they were a little bit different. Well, enough time has passed that, if you remember, in Egypt there were kings and queens, and the king, or actually even the queens, were called pharaohs. So the pharaoh that had the dream that Joseph interpreted, well, he's since passed away as well. He's died. So there's a new pharaoh. And this new pharaoh does not like the Israelites, does not like Jacob's descendants, Joseph's descendants. He comes up with a plan. Any ideas? He decides that the Israelites should become slaves to Egypt. And that's what he does. So all of the Israelites that live there in Egypt have become slaves. And it was not an easy life. They did a lot of manual labor, which means really hard work. But the Pharaoh wasn't satisfied with that, so he comes up with a new plan. He wants to get rid of the Israelites. I guess you would say that's his goal. So he decides, and this is scary, I think, he decides when an Israelite has a baby, when a family that are Israelites have a baby, if it's a girl, she gets to live. If it's a boy, he's to die. There's a river in Egypt. It's still there now. It's called the Nile River. And the Nile River was a really big deal back then, and it still is now, because it kind of brought life. So if you remember back then, there was a lot of farming and growing the crops. Well, to grow plants, you need sun, you need soil, and you need water. And the water came from the Nile River. And have you ever had that happen, where you had a thought and then it just went, whoop, well, it's going to come back. So the Nile River. So that was a really big deal. Well, the Pharaoh's plan was all the boy or male Israelite babies were to be thrown into the Nile River and die. It sounds pretty scary to me, but it's true, and it's what happened. So, oh, that's what I wanted to tell you. If you look at Egypt, all around the Nile River is nice and green because of all the plants and the crops growing. But as soon as you go away from the Nile River, if you go to Egypt, it's desert, just lots of sand, and it's very dry. So around the Nile River, that's how the Egyptians were able to survive, is they had the Nile River so that they could grow food. So what we know is, right at that point in time, if you were an Israelite and you had a baby and it was a boy, he was thrown into the Nile River. Well, now we're going to jump into the story from today. So we know a couple, a husband and wife, they had a little baby boy. They were Israelites. They hid the baby for 3 months. They were able to hide him in their home. But then they couldn't hide him anymore. God had a plan for this little baby. Do you have any idea what the mom did? Do you remember from the story? She hid the baby at the Nile River. Now remember, the Nile River is where they were throwing all the baby boys. So what a great place, honestly, to hide him where he would be safe and no one would look. And she didn't just lay him on the side of the river. Remember, she made a basket for him. Now, you couldn't just run to Michael's and get supplies. You had to make things yourself back then. So she used some of the plants or the reeds that grew on the side of the Nile, and she wove them into a basket. And then she used tar and pitch, and she coated the outside, and it made it waterproof. So she could put the baby in, put the top on, and let him float in the Nile on the side amongst the bushes, the reeds, so he would be hidden. But he wasn't alone. He had a sister. Her name was Miriam. And in the Egyptian language, the name Miriam, all names have different meanings. It meant a good girl. So the baby's sister Miriam stayed nearby. Now, do you think they just put him anywhere on the Nile, or do you think there was a plan? There might have been a plan. So, the Pharaoh, the king, had a daughter, a princess. Now, back then, even though she lived in the palace, there weren't toilets inside or showers or bathtubs. Everyone, whether you were poor or rich, went to the Nile River for a bath to get clean. So I wonder what you think. Do you think the princess went to different places all the time to take a bath, or do you think she had a schedule where she went to the same place? I don't know. I always wondered about that. But the princess went down to take a bath at the river. Guess who was floating nearby? The baby. Guess who was watching? His sister Miriam. And the Pharaoh's daughter, we don't know her name except for the Pharaoh's daughter, we're not told, but she saw the basket. And she was curious. So she had one of her handmaids, which means servants. She had one of her servants bring the basket to her. And she opened it. Do you remember what her comment was? She saw the baby inside and saw that it was a boy and thought, oh, it must be one of the Israelite babies. You know, I wonder when she looked at that carefully made basket, if she could see how much that baby was loved. And maybe this was part of the plan, right? Because she had two choices. She could turn the baby boy over to the Egyptian soldiers, right? And he could be killed, he could be drowned, or she could save his life. Do you remember, which did she do? She saved him. Part of God's plan. God puts the right people in the right place at the right time. So, she is looking at this baby, and Miriam, the little girl, goes up to Pharaoh's daughter. Can you imagine a slave going up to the princess and just talking with her? And she offers to find someone to help care for the little baby boy. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. Guess who she went and got? Who do you think? She went and got her mom. Her mom is also the baby's mom, right? How exciting for the mom. So she goes. Must have been kind of scary though. She sees the princess has found her son. And the princess is not wanting to harm the baby at all. The princess asks her to raise him. So what a joy for the mom. She gets to have her son a little longer, and he's safe, and the princess even offers to pay her for it, so her family benefits. So what we know is the baby went home, and the princess had said, when he gets older, bring him to me in the palace. I'm going to call it a castle. They called it a palace. So that's what happens. So time passes, and the mom takes the baby back to the princess. Do you remember, what does the princess name the baby boy? Moses. Do you know what Moses means? Moses means taken out of the water. How, that's like a literal, like the princess took him out of the water. So not only is he still alive, and he's one of the slave babies, one of the Israelite babies, the princess adopts him as her son, and he lives in the palace with Pharaoh. Now that must have been really, really difficult for Moses' mom to leave the palace, to leave her son with the Pharaoh's daughter. That must have been so hard. But she knew he would be safe there. And remember, moms and dads, we want you to be safe. We want you to be healthy and safe. And so God takes care of us. We don't always see it, but God has a plan for all of us. God had a plan for Moses to live. What an amazing plan. What an amazing mom he had, and sister, and Pharaoh's daughter, and just the plan all came together. God's pretty amazing, and God loves us. God can do amazing things. Thanks for hanging out with me today. So hey, let's close in prayer, okay? So get comfy. I think I'm gonna put my hands like this today. God, thank you for bringing us together. Thank you for sharing these stories with us where we can learn that even though we don't see you or see exactly how you're making your plan work, we believe you have a plan, and your plan is for the good of all of us, and you are helping us. So even when things are hard, you're still with us and you still love us. Thank you for loving us. Please keep us safe this week, and hopefully we can see each other again next week. Bye.